It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Yes, it certainly is your feel-good breakfast show. Thank you so much for joining us at the start of a brand new day. And of course, a big day awaiting our class of 2022, because tomorrow the 2023 Matric results are out. And for many, it will be a cause for celebration, and for others, a time of disappointment at not achieving those desired marks in subjects or not getting a bachelor's pass, for instance. But this, of course, is not the end of the road. Please know and understand that, because there are various options that are available to achieving a bright future. And to talk to us through this process of disappointment is Head of Institution at the Boston City campus, Dr. Hendrik Botha. Great to have you with us this morning. How are you?
Good, thank you. And good morning to all the viewers this morning.
Absolutely fantastic to have you. We've had some discussions off air, very inspiring as we look towards the future of what Africa could be in the next decade or so, and how young people can particularly benefit from that. But as we said, taking it back to the big day tomorrow. It's a big day for our learners, the class of 2022. They're waiting for their Matric results. And of course, this against the backdrop of much celebration, there could be a lot of disappointment in that time as well. So how does it impact young people at that very important stage of life? You've been working 12 years of your life to get to Matric, and finally there's disappointment at the end of the road. How does that impact you?
So let me first say, let's celebrate. It's an early celebration for all of those who are going to achieve the exact grades and the exact results they were aiming for. Congratulations to them.
Indeed.
And congratulations to all of those who've actually sat for the exams and also just obtained an ordinary pass, because it's a record number of students that have written this year. So that's exemplary, and that's a good trend for South Africa.
Excellent.
Getting more passes, holding on to more of our matriculants. Disappointment, welcome to the world of adulthood. We are all going to deal with challenges and disappointments for the rest of our lives in various ratios and various circumstances. But let me say welcome to adulthood, and also say this is a new day, a new dawn, and this is an opportunity to craft your future. As an adult, every day is an opportunity to start afresh, to start again. You'll be faced with new choices and new opportunities, and every day is an opportunity to make a new decision, a different decision, not to be disappointed downstream. So this disappointment, this creeping in of negativity should not be there. As you mentioned, we'll discuss it. There are many, many opportunities to start afresh and to start again, because that is the positivity about adulthood. Yeah. Every day is a new day.
And I guess that's the first setting you kind of need to work on in your own mind psychologically, that, okay, this is the world, this is how life works, and the sooner you learn to deal with those moments of disappointment and build resilience so that you could make it through them, the better off you are. So now that you are at that point, let's talk about opportunities that then might exist. For those that, let's say, are not going to a tertiary institution to go and study further, what options are available to start afresh, as you were saying?
So South Africa has some of the most progressive human resource development policies and strategies in place, which bodes very, very well for human capital development on all rungs of the ladder in terms of the quality of passes you obtain from school. And it is a bit of the bigger picture is it is a bit of a cart before the horse, in that we need to develop the human capital in order for investors to want to uptake those talent into jobs.
Makes sense.
So yes, the job market is tight, but the positive trend is why should you develop yourself further? It's to have the first foot in the door for a job opportunity, and graduates have a much lesser unemployment rate, vastly lesser than those with no qualifications.
Okay.
So that's the first key. So there are many, many opportunities. We can discuss them in detail, but we can also look at the bachelor's passes and other opportunities.
Absolutely. Just, from understanding, because, you work with learners, young people in your day-to-day dealings. To those who, let's say, didn't make it, right? What do you have to say to their families and those people who are around them that stand as support structures for them at this time? Because, you can imagine, initially, it will be a shock to the individual, to their family, and to the community, perhaps, and that might have an impact on them. What would you say to those people who stand in support?
So I would say it's an opportunity to reset, and I would guide the learners to career counseling opportunities. I think career counseling and planning is one of the most underrated keys during your school phase, but also post-school phase.
Yes.
Making decisions for the future. And career planning is accessible, is widely accessible at no cost. At many instances and intervals. You'll be amazed at how many institutions like ourselves make available for walk-ins to come and discuss and do career planning, access tools at no cost and at no with no inclination to hold on to the student necessarily about matching your desires, your values with future opportunities, with career paths, because that's the first start. You can also do a lot of that on the internet. If you start dedicating time to planning and looking at the career, then we can start unpack the roots to the career. So there are many. So once we targeted a specific career, then the roots can be unpacked, and the roots are. What's wonderful about this decade, and what's wonderful about the last 2 decades, is access to education has become an imperative. Because we know developed human capital is more in demand, so therefore there are various routes to accessing educations to unlock these career opportunities.
Absolutely.
And that comes in many forms.
Yeah. And we'll chat a little bit more about that after the break. And I want to share a little bit of what you were saying is super inspiring about where we are right now as a continent in the signing of the free trade agreement on the African continent that will result in some $3 trillion in an economy that holds potential for everyone who is a thinker and a problem solver. And just because you might not have made it past the Matric or grade 12 hurdle, that does not preclude you from being part of that bustling economy and the future that it holds. So we'll continue our discussion with Dr. Botha very shortly as we look upon the big day tomorrow.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso on S3, as we continue to hold thumbs, of course, for all of our matriculants receiving their results tomorrow, but we're also looking to help those who might feel a bit disappointed at their results. Dr. Hendrik Botha is here from the Boston City campus, and he joins us to continue our discussion. And a very interesting thing that we were talking about a couple of seconds ago is the admissions points system that is used by most tertiary institutions to then admit students into their various programs, but most being the operative word, because not all institutions actually work on that system. How does it work in some institutions?
So let me first say what's the minimum requirements. The minimum requirements to gain entry to higher education is your Matric pass plus your relevant endorsement. That's the minimum requirements. Right. So i.e. if you want to study a degree program, do you have a Matric certificate with a degree endorsement? If you want to study a diploma, do you have a Matric certificate with a diploma endorsement? For higher certificates, Matric with higher certificate endorsement. That's the minimum requirements. Then institutions are allowed to set additional technical benchmarks. And that's really to service the function of the traditional institutions having a limited number of seats. There are more bachelor and diploma and higher certificate holders, entry holders, than what there are seats available in a traditional institution.
Right, that makes sense.
So it's an easy way to say who would be the candidates who best fit this limited number of seats. But that's not the requirement, and that's not the purpose of widening access and making access to higher education available, not just in South Africa, but globally. So the non-traditional institutions who are starting to generate as many graduates that's in demand in the world of work do not abide by the point system. They traditionally only have the requirement to say, if you want to study, if you want to take on a bachelor's degree program, do you have bachelor's endorsement? That's ordinarily the minimum requirement, and that suffices access. We have a long positive history with open and distance learning in South Africa, making a use of the non-point system in widening education.
Right.
And if you consider the long and the beautiful history of open and distance education, it has generated more graduates and postgraduates in South Africa than the traditional universities combined.
Well, that's something to take.
So the point system is really not something to break your head on and to become disheartened about.
Right.
If you did not make that grade, there are other avenues to explore.
Yes, let's talk about those. And I think one of them being the option of maybe improving one's marks through rewriting. And let's talk about the various options available.
Okay, so my advice would be a rewrite becomes important if you are committed to a very specific trajectory.
Okay.
That you did not meet the minimum requirements for in the first instance. So if you're deeply committed, then the rewrite is the answer.
Okay.
And there are many opportunities to go about the rewrite for the support in being successful. So you'll register for the rewrite, but then look on the internet, go for the career advice, look at institutions that offer remedial opportunities in the subject fields that you need to rewrite in order to up that grade. If you do not want to opt for a rewrite, and your career advice is there's different opportunities available, whether it's differentiated degrees or other diplomas or higher certificates, then simply access those fields without going for the rewrite. But if you failed your matric, my advice is to go for the rewrite. Because it's the quickest way to conclude this phase that needs to be concluded. A grade 12 is an important endorsement of yourself in order to then access the job market and access further studies.
Yeah. Please carry on, yes.
If you're not able to rewrite, if you failed and you're not in a position to rewrite, it's still not the end of the road.
Yes.
There are many institutions similar to ours which have a variety of career paths and learning trajectories to absorb you in and to take you through bridging phases and stepping stones in order to accumulate new knowledges and new skill sets that can serve as part of your recognition of prior learning portfolio in future to still access higher certificates, diplomas, or degrees at a later stage.
Yeah.
So the message I'm sharing is there's no cause for disheartenment. South Africa has the most progressive policies. It's about you accessing these services, visiting the institutions, looking at the opportunities, and with counsellors crafting a way forward.
Well, I got to say that with leaders like you at institutions like the one that you head in the way that you do, there's so much inspiration and there's so much hope that you've given to so many out there. So thank you very much for spending the morning with us and infusing that hope within us.
Thank you, I appreciate.
And once again, all the best to all of you receiving your results. Tomorrow, we're holding thumbs for you, but as you've heard from Dr. Botha, all is not lost despite whatever that result might be. There's a bright future and an opportunity for everyone out there. Go out and take yours.